What's up everyone, Tim here from Everyday Tactical Vids, and today we're going to be looking at a wide variety of fixed blades from Schrade. The reason I got all these out is because I want to talk about them and contrast them really to this knife right here, which is the Schrade SCHF42D. And this is a new knife that Schrade is in the final steps right now of getting the all the work done so they can get it out to the public very soon. I wanted to talk about all these knives because these are the knives of the Schrade fixed blades that I have that I've actually held on to. So I've gotten a lot of different knives from Schrade over the years to test out, and some of them I've kept, a lot I've given away, done some as giveaways to friends, others as like giveaways on the Everyday Tactical Vids channel and stuff like that. But these are the ones that have actually stuck with me, and that's because of the fact that I like them and the performance, and also when I do teaching, wilderness survival, bushcrafting, and I want people to see some different knives, these are the ones I like to talk about. So the Schrade SCHF42D, which is this one right here. Let's compare it real quick to the 42. So essentially what you have here is that the 42 came out, a lot of people liked it a lot, and they were just really impressed with it as far as a compact, lightweight, budget bushcraft / small survival knife. This is the one they liked a lot. But some people, I would actually say probably quite a few people, didn't like the recurve, and so Schrade went back, connected with Brian Griffin, and now you have the 42D, which doesn't have that recurve on it. So you can see side by side, very, very similar knives. You get the recurve on this one, no recurve on this one. You have the black handles on this one. You have a brown handle on this one. Jimping is the same, thickness is the same. And then the one other difference is just you get a brown leather sheath with the 42D as opposed to a black leather sheath with the 42. So that's pretty much the main differences between the 42 and the 42D. This one is it's not the final version. It's not going to be changed a ton from this, but as I was looking at even the grind down here when you get toward the edge is just not done as well as you will get in the final production. So I want to talk about these knives and kind of contrast and compare them just so you can see maybe the pluses and the minuses that you're going to get out of each of the knives. And so what I've done is kind of from the older ones to the newer ones, and then this one is our final one. So this one is the Schrade SCHF9N, which I don't even think they make the N anymore, they just make the 9. And this was kind of one that really put Schrade on the map for a lot of people when it came to a large fixed blade survival knife. And I'll put links to all these knives down below, so if you want to click on the link and get more details, you can certainly do that. This has got the TPE handles, nice, this nice kind of Teflon-like coating on it. So, you get a nice grip here. You can also choke up if you want to do some of that detail work. Comes with a ballistic nylon sheath. This one is a Brian Griffin design as well, but it was very popular. And so I think people like this, but they wanted one smaller, so they went with the 42. As you can see, they kind of look like the big brother and little brother to one another. This one came out around the same time that this one came out, which is the SCHF3N. And then there's also the 3, which has some small serrations a little bit up there on the blade. This is similar as far as, it's a large survival knife. Then you can also choke up on it like this. You can see a little bit difference in the profile. Got more belly on this one, more recurve. There's a tiny bit of recurve on this one. This one actually had some issues, so Schrade went and made some changes, and so this is actually the later version. There was an older version. This is the most updated version of the 3N. This one actually won an award, I believe it was from Outdoor Magazine. So yeah, just people who were reviewing it liked it a lot. It does come with this lanyard, comes with a ballistic nylon sheath. This one I would say if you have larger hands, this is going to be a good one for you. I found that both these two, this one has a pretty decent sized swell there. So if you have larger hands, these knives are going to be a little bit more comfortable for you. This one has different handles. I don't know if it's G10. I think it's G10 as compared to the TPE. So that's what those two look like. Moving on here, we've got just the 26, or this is the 10. This is the 10. The 26, I believe, is exactly like this, except it has the TPE handles. I like this knife. I like that big belly. I actually tested this one pretty aggressively in the cold, and it held up. It's got a lot more, I don't know, flair to it, if you will. It does have the coating. You can see it's starting to wear off there. Micarta handles, and you're not going to really smash with the pommel there. You're not going to crush a whole lot with that, but you can put a lanyard on there. It's definitely, when you look at it, you can see the size of the handle compared to the size of the blade. Definitely got a big hefty blade there. I did find it was comfortable to hold in a variety of different positions. This one, having used a bunch of these other ones, I really liked this, and then when I tested some of these other ones, I kind of liked some of these a bit more. So this one's definitely a win still, just got a lot of belly there, and for some people that's not going to be exactly what they're looking for. Moving on here, this is a compact little one. This is the 24, and I like this a lot. Actually, I think my review of this, I made a frog gig, or like a fishing gig or frog gig. And this was just, I like the texture of this, very small, very compact. I used gloves with it if I remember properly, but it was nice to use. Not a big hefty blade, more of like a companion size blade to something else. A two tool option. I wouldn't just take this one out in the woods, but yeah, I like this, and it has a nice tip there to get into pierce, and I like where the tip is as far as the line of the handle and then the tip. So if you're trying to do this to get the beginning of a divot for a bow drill, it's not off center from where your hand's naturally going. So that's a good one. Excuse me. This is the SCHF42D. You can see that I haven't cleaned it all up, but I stripped the coating off it. It had that powder coat on it. A lot of people weren't a big fan of that, so I took that off. This is the one that won the, I think it was the People's Choice Award for Blade Show 2015. And this is a nice size knife. Again, holding it back here, you definitely can chop with it. Holding up here, you definitely can do some finer work with it. It is a 1/4 inch thick. Some people have said this is kind of like a BK2, Schrade's version of it. It was very popular, it won some awards. So this is, if you're looking for a budget bushcraft survival knife, something kind of in the middle, this could be a good option for you with it's not ginormous, it's not small, it's kind of in the middle. This one, I honestly, I kept this just because it's just a Mondo knife. So this is the 40L, there's also the 40, which is just a shorter version. If you look at a slightly shorter version of this, you're going to say, hey, that looks like the LMF from Gerber, and it does look a lot like the LMF from Gerber. So I kept this just because, just for kicks, just to show people, you can get different size blades. I have not actually used this knife. I used the 40, but not the 40L. So this one is just kind of to show off when I'm instructing and teaching classes, doing seminars and things like that. So this one doesn't have the heft as far as some of these other ones, to use for chopping. So this probably wouldn't be my #1 go-to, but kind of a cool knife. And all these knives are budget friendly. You're talking, probably around a little bit less than 30 bucks, up to 50, 55, maybe 60 bucks, depending on where you pick these up. We already talked about the 42. A lot of people like this knife a lot, and I said that already when this came out. I was a little bit more indifferent about it. I think it's a cool knife. I think it's a good knife for, it kind of meets that smaller size bushcrafting style knife. I would have done some things different, and to be honest, I would do some things different about both of these knives because they're very similar. I would have gotten rid of the belly, which they did on this. I would have gotten rid of the jimping. I think it's going to be a much more effective bushcraft style knife if you get rid of the jimping. I just don't like that up on the top. I think I would swap out the handle material as well. This one that I call brown, it does have a little bit of a pinkish tinge to me, like pink, maybe orange. So just be aware of that. As I'm looking at it now in this light, I'm like, oh, it looks pretty brown, but it's kind of brown, leaning tan, and just to me, and I talked to somebody else and they said, yeah, they saw it too a little bit. So just a heads up, you may want to get some custom handles for this. And I think there's a guy, I'll put a link down below, LMF Designs or LMF Handles, something like that, who makes custom handles for both these knives. Pretty much the exact same handle, just different colors. I'm not a huge fan of the handles of either one of these, but I feel like this one is, when they made it, they were kind of like, hey, it's a bushcraft survival knife. If they had just made it without the jimping, and what was the other thing, the handle, and I don't know if it was the pommel, I wasn't a huge fan of, but I felt like if they made, without the jimping and a little bit better handle in there, I would say, yeah, that's a better bushcraft knife, but it was kind of in between a bunch of different things for me. So I like it still. I think it's a good option. I do like this one more. I do feel like this blade has a little bit, I don't know, the profile's a little bit kitchen knife-ish to me. I don't know if you see that same thing, but to me this looks a little bit more like a kitchen knife as far as the design. It may just be the way they finish the grind here, but it looks like it kind of drops down again at the end just a little bit, as opposed to coming straight back and flat across it. But still, both these knives, I think if you had them, as far as a budget survival bushcraft knife, you're going to be quite happy with them. Down here on the end, we have the 51, and the 51 is basically the improved version of the 36, and you can get this with the TPE handles or micarta handles. The 51, basically a couple differences. They have this Teflon-like coating as opposed to the powder coating, which I took off on this. A lot of people didn't like the powder coating. You have a little bit more of a hook here on this section of the handle, as opposed to not as much here, so you can really lock your hand in. And they did some smoothing on the handle, the TPE, and on the metal there. I think even they smoothed that a little bit, so it's a little bit more comfortable. So if you like the 36, almost definitely you'll like the 51. And then just compare the 51 and the 52. 52 is just a larger version of the 51. So this to me, just looking at it, I think this is similar to like a Rat 7 size, and whereas this is more closer to like a Rat 5. So if you want something that's a little bit heftier that you can chop with a little bit more effectively, and also that you could, obviously because of the length of the blade, you could baton through something easier with that one. That could be a good option for you. Again, these are the ones that I've kept from my Schrade blades. Other ones I've given away, I've passed on to other folks, but these are the ones I've kept because I do like these blades. If I were to pick one of these knives, maybe out of all of them, to use as a primary survival knife, I'd probably take the 3N or the 51. These two are my preference, to just like the style of them. Found them the most comfortable to use. Now, as far as the 42D, a lot of people are going to like this because it doesn't have that belly like the 42 did. The handle color, it reminds me of, again, K-bar style knives. Some people like the basics of it, and then they do a bunch of mods to really make it their own knife. I think that's probably going to happen with this knife as well. People are going to get it and then make a couple modifications to change things out a little bit. But I do think the 42D is a good move for Schrade. The 42, while I wasn't a huge fan of it, a lot of people appreciated where they were going, and I think that'll be true for the 42D as well. I just wanted to give you a close-up of the two knives, 42 and 42D here. As you can tell, when you look at them up close and pretty much side by side there, very similar in design. So if you like the 42, you're probably going to like the 42D. The belly is definitely going to be a little bit more effective if you have to do some skinning or things like that. You get a little bit more, it'll just be easier to do it with that belly as opposed to this one. This one won't be bad for it. I just think that one overall will be better. There you have it, a bunch of different survival knives from Schrade. Those are my favorites, and I basically wanted to do that video because the 42D came to me to check out, and I want to just give you a sense of this, compared to those other ones. Once again, this is going to be an option when it comes onto the market. I think a lot of people are going to jump onto it. So SCHF42D, a Griffin design from Schrade. Your price point's going to probably be similar to the Frontier, which I've put links down to that knife down below if you want to get the original version, if you will, of this, just the 42. So it's not going to be super expensive. I would call it budget friendly. It's not going to be 25 bucks, but it's also not going to be 150 or something like that. So check it out, and let's hear your feedback. If you have a Schrade survival knife or a Schrade fixed blade, what do you like? What do you like about it? And how does that compare to the ones we've talked about here in this video? Thanks as always for checking out our videos here on YouTube. Please subscribe to Everyday Tactical Vids on YouTube if you haven't done so already. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, check us out on Instagram and Tumblr as well. Take care.